Hello, my dear students. Good evening and welcome to EduShastra. I am Vinod Shankaran, and this class is very important. Tarishi, good evening, madam. All of you join me quickly because we will be discussing the importance of inferential questions. What are inferential questions? Why are they important in exams? Is what we will be discussing in this class. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Beta. Ishak, good evening. Okay. So just stay put if you want to understand what kind of questions are asked, how to go about answering them, what exactly do you need to do to be able to do well in the RC section of reading comprehension section of exams. Okay, and how far it becomes important. Join me quickly now. Hardik, welcome. All of you, welcome, Beta. So nice to see so many people waiting for the class. It's actually a very nice thing. It's a very nice feeling. Okay, so let's start. Okay, I was waiting for all of you to join, so I gave it some time. So, what is the importance of inferential questions in RC? Now, the first question is, why is RC itself important? That is the first place to start. Okay, and then let's see what all aspects of reading comprehension you find difficult, how to address them, and let's also try some questions if we have the time. Okay, so the first things first, let's come to the reading comprehension itself. Now, reading comprehension, a passage is given, multiple questions are asked, and you're asked to answer them. Now, as long as we were in school or we were not into serious reading, okay, even schools. Raghav, that is a good way of putting it. That's a very nice way of putting it. Yes. Okay. So RCs form the main crux of all your English or any language. See, any language, if you're taking a language test, you will see that more often than not, you're given a written passage and then you are asked to answer questions on those because it tests everything. Can you understand the grammar? Can you understand the vocabulary? Can you understand the uh, hidden message from the author, the direct message from the author? All those things are can be tested in one reading comprehension question. So that's why these become important in any exam you go to. They have a reading comprehension section. Okay, so the importance comes from which parts? Let's first of all discuss instead of discussing the intellectual side of it or the academic side of it. Let's understand it from an exam point of view. About 60 to 95% of the questions are reading comprehension questions in different exams. Some of them may give a lower percentage, and some of them may give a higher percentage to these reading comprehension questions. But that does, see, even that higher and lower also falls between 60 and 95. 60 and 95%. Oh, the come on, which means above 50. So, where is grammar, sir? Is it important? Yes, it is important, but not always. In an examination where 95% of the questions are reading comprehension questions, why would you learn grammar? Okay, but is grammar important? Yes, because without grammar, you'll not be able to make sense of the sentences, the structures, vocabulary. So let's come to those. About 60 to 95% of the questions are reading comprehension questions. Okay, now, well, so what is so big about what is so big? What is such a big deal about this? Because I have been doing reading comprehension questions in my school till plus two, and I've been getting 95 and 98% marks. So where is the trouble? So if it is any exam, any competitive exam, if the same thing is going to happen, then I'm happy because I've always been getting very good marks in English because rarely do I fail. But the problem there is till your school days, the comprehension passages were easy. Most of the questions asked were direct questions. That is, they were based on the passage itself, where you did not need to do much. Okay, you just needed to scan for that information, check the question and the information given in the passage are right. Okay, But that is not the case with when you go for competitive exams. Competitive exams use the same comprehension passages as a tool to judge your ability to understand words or understand uh, English, the language. Okay, so let's come to this. Okay, now here, challenges in RC. What are the challenges that one typically faces in RC, sir? Okay, what are the challenges that we face in RC? First of all, is the comprehension itself. Sir, समझ में नहीं आता. तीन बार ना पढ़ूं, if I don't read the passage three times, okay, I cannot even make sense of the passage. Okay. Second, we'll talk one by one. Second is speed. Sir, I'm so slow. I'm so slow that by the time I finish reading one passage, I'm already in a hurry. I don't know what to do with the other questions because I've not finished one passage. And you say, sir, I have to go back again and again. I can't read once and be satisfied with it. Okay, I have to read multiple times. Okay, so let's check one by one. And sir, vocabulary. If I do not have the above problems, then vocabulary stops me. Okay, four words in a sentence. I haven't ever heard of those words. What do I do? And then last, inferential questions. That is questions that are based on the text, but no direct answer can be seen. No direct answer can be seen. Now, just before your class, I was trying to get some questions ready for your class. Okay. And I was using Chat GPT. You know that. Okay. And it's a language model. I gave it a question. Okay. From a very important exam. I gave it a question. I thought I would modify it somehow and present it to you in a lighter version. Okay. Now, when I presented the question to it and I asked which is the correct answer, it went berserk. Okay, I asked two questions and it wasn't able to give me the answer. It says this can also be the answer and that can also be the answer. I was like amazed how even these language models, okay, they are supposed to be very supposed to be taking away jobs, etc. Well, what I see here is language is not an easy thing. Language is something that can suggest so many things in one time at one time. Okay, add to it the colors that we can impart to it, the tones, the emotions, okay, the facial expressions, etc. Okay, so everything, when you impart that to language, then language becomes a very complex thing. Okay, I believe we have made technical advances. Okay? We have, in 100 years, we have completely changed the way we live. Huh? Science and technology, okay, have like they have developed leaps and bounds. But human relations is based on language. Human relations are based on language. What I say, you cannot understand me correctly, and you start getting angry. I can make you feel so many different things with one sentence. Okay, it's all about how I say it. The same sentence. Please come and sit. Okay, please come and sit. Okay, and then please come and sit. Okay, so the tone changes. The same words can have multiple effects. And when it is in writing, I'm not even using my facial expressions. I'm not using my tone. You have to understand the text, what the author feels, the kind of emotion that he expresses. So all those come under inferential questions. Therefore, reading comprehension may become a tough task. Okay, so how do we address these problems, sir? First of all, comprehension. Okay, let's take the first one. So the comprehension, that is, how do I understand, say, about 300 to 400 words that are written on a particular subject? So why am I reading this? What is the author trying to achieve? Now that's when it becomes very important to understand structure, the structure of any communication, whether it's a speech or a writing or casual talking. Okay, so even when you're talking with your friends, okay, and there is a debate you pick up, okay, you get into an argument or there is a debate you are getting involved in. Okay, now it becomes very important to be very logical. You need to understand how you are going to structure your final say, but let's say, put it as the conclusion that you're going to draw. What exactly do you want your friends to believe in. तुमको अपने दोस्तों को किस चीज से कन्विंस कराना है, उसके प्रति हम क्या करते हैं, पहले our mind has thought over it, okay, and then we don't express that idea, maybe, okay, we try to drive towards it by giving them supporting information. So this structure becomes very, very important. We'll discuss this in a while. Okay, how does structure work? This we'll discuss in a while. But understanding the structure of a passage or a communication is very, very important. ये normally हम करते नहीं हैं, but we have understood it over a period of time, like right from your childhood you have been speaking with your parents, you have been speaking with your friends, there has been interaction in your society, okay, in the place where you live. So we do have some knowledge of how structures happen, but in written communication how structure works is something that not all of us are aware of. Okay, so that we will learn. And then the second, and then that is very important. The second one is speed. So, and let me put it here. Put it here this way. Now, comprehension, once you understand the structure, it immediately contributes to your speed. Because once you know, okay, these, suppose the first paragraph, okay, okay, suppose the first paragraph, okay, you read the first paragraph where the author has actually mentioned what he is supposed trying to drive into your head. मान लो पहला ही sentence, okay, the first sentence in the passage itself, he says, this is what I want to convince you about, this is my opinion on a particular topic, and that is the sentence you had to understand. But because we were not looking for it, because we did not know what we were reading, we missed that sentence, and because you missed that sentence, the entire passage does not make sense. It's possible. Okay, and mostly the author does it, the writer mostly would come to the point in the first paragraph itself. And we used to think, if at all, in our school days we used to be taught this way: introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So you are always waiting for the conclusion to happen in the last paragraph. Okay, that's a kind of myth that we have developed from school days. Okay, the problem is the conclusion could be anywhere in the passage. The conclusion could be anywhere in the passage. The author could actually state the purpose of his writing anywhere. Now, that is why understanding the structure of a passage itself will contribute to increasing your speed. Because once you have understood what, suppose in the first sentence I say, India, Indians have been Indians have been placing more stress on cricket than any other sports. Immediately you understand that the focus of the passage is going to be why Indians do that or what should be done. So immediately those two questions have started playing on your mind because you understood the first question, that was the main purpose where he is trying to bring in his argument. So understanding those sentences which are primary, which are very important to the passage, is the first hurdle that you need to pass. So once you do this, speed, come on, oh, hold on for a second, Vidal. Maybe I'll lose. I don't know what happened. Just hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. I'm coming back. Just a second, please. I think I inadvertently pressed the. I think I inadvertently pressed the escape button. So that that the PPT went off the screen. Anyway, so let's come back to this. Now, what I was saying was comprehension. Understanding the structure can directly contribute to your speed because then you know what you're reading. So speed increases automatically. Now, is that the only thing to increase your speed in the reading, sir? No, there are many things we can try. Okay, the first thing is understanding the structure. The second thing is there are many, uh, say, minor points. I would say I would call them minor points, not major points. When you know grammar well, when you know grammar well, you know the units of sentences, how to connect the units of sentences. Two things primarily. In grammar, we talk about the phrases and the clauses. Do you know what a clause is, and do you know what the phrases are, and do you know how to punctuate when you're reading or when you're speaking? Then you know where to take a pause, where to stop. The same thing can be applied to reading, and it will increase your reading speed when you know punctuations and the concept of grammar, phrases and clauses. But primarily, if you know the structure of a passage, then speed increases automatically. The third thing that we can try to, we can use to improve our speed is increasing the eye span. When you are reading, trying to increase your eye span, trying to catch as many words from the sentence as possible, uh, horizontally also and vertically also. Okay, vertically also. That is one more thing. There are many things that I can tell you, very many smaller things that I can tell you. But the primary thing is understand the structure, your speed will increase. Now, when it comes to regression, sir, I have to go back to the passage again and again to understand. Okay, and with every question, I go back to the questions. I go back with every question, I go back to the passage. Now, that is maybe because of the kind of strategy that you have adopted. Okay, the strategy that you have adopted to answer the questions. Now for you, for most of the exam takers, it's about answering questions, not about understanding the passage. Now that focus itself is wrong. It's the wrong focus to have in an examination. Without understanding the passage, you will not be able to answer. Let anybody say anything. I'm totally against the idea of skimming and scanning. I don't know what that actually means. I've tried skimming and scanning. What are you going to do? You are going to read the questions and skim and scan and understand a tight, a very densely developed argument. Is that going to happen? It won't. You have to read and you have to understand the structure. Okay, so in my view, uh, okay, in my view, that is a completely unworkable idea. Okay, that reading the question, skim and scan, I don't know what they mean by that. If I understand it correctly, then I'm not a big fan of skimming and scanning. But I'm a big fan of understanding the structure of the passage because it helps me. Once I know what is important, what is to be read, then my speed increases automatically. Okay, and then those eye span, reading horizontally and vertically, those things actually help. Okay, knowing grammar will actually help. Okay, and regression, this regression can stop if you know the structure first of all. Know the structure first of all, and then there is a very important thing I'm going to suggest here: reading strategy. For me, simultaneous reading works. If answering the questions is your focus, which should be in an examination, answering the question should be the focus, but not understanding the passage and answering the question is not going to happen. Okay, so what I say is simultaneous reading of the passage and the questions. That is, you start with a few sentences, go to the questions, read some more questions, some more sentences, go to the question. Now here, the skimming and scanning can actually work because what you are reading is in front of you. If it relates to this, well. If it doesn't relate to it, at least you know that question number one cannot be answered from here. Your mind is very clear. Question number two, we do the same thing. So you keep on reading and actually keep scanning the questions rather than scanning the passage for the answers. I scan the questions so that I can relate the passage to the questions. And then I'll do it this way rather than doing it this way. Okay. So that way you will save a lot of time. This regression will not happen. Regression is going back to the passage again and again. That will not happen. Okay. Somebody says, Aditi Khushwa, I applied your method and it works for me sometimes, but not always. Why is that happening? Aditi, that is because you do not understand the structure. The structure has also to be understood. This is not the only way that I'm telling you, Aditi. And there are times when the passage is so dense. Okay, suppose it is philosophy or psychology. A passage has been taken from philosophy or psychology or a subject that you're not very happy. Uh, you're not happy with, you don't read such kind of passages. then regression becomes an automatic thing. Or even I do that when I'm presented with a passage that I have not been too acquainted with. I will, yes, at least you know which questions to answer. So regression is something that can be addressed by knowing the structure and also adopting the simultaneous reading strategy. Now, this is one. Now, sir, above all this, you are not addressing one thing. Should I read books? Should I read novels? Should I read magazines, etc.? That we haven't come to. I'll come to that. Okay, then it is vocabulary. Sir, vocabulary. My vocabulary is really weak. Now, that can actually hinder your understanding of a passage or even a sentence. One sentence that was so important for understanding the passage, but because you do not know a few words there, the sentence does not make sense to you. Hence, the entire passage does not make sense to you. Okay, that's a possibility. So, how to improve vocabulary? Now, this is a long-term process. It's a long-term process. Now, don't get disheartened. Don't get disheartened. If you want your vocabulary to be very good, it's a lifelong process. Let me put it that way. It's a lifelong process. It will keep on happening over a period of time. But for exams, okay, don't worry. If vocabulary is a universal problem, it's a universal problem. So what you need to want to do is just be ahead of the competition. Okay, if your competition knows 500 words, you just want 501 word, you are better than the competition. So what we do is you start working on vocabulary. What all can be done, sir? There are many things we can do. We can learn prefixes, suffixes. There are many different things that you can try to do. But one thing you must certainly do is read every day and pick up few words. Pick up a few words. There is no limit. 5, 6, 10, 20. It's up to you. Okay, pick up a few words. Okay, pick up a few words. Spend time with them. That is, look for the synonyms, how they are used, what are the synonyms they have, what are the antonyms they have. So even if you pick up three words for a day and say look at three synonyms and three antonyms, 9 plus 9, 18 words you have looked at. Sir, I cannot recollect those 18 words. You won't be able to. Okay. uh, you won't be able to recollect all those 18 words, but you are acquainted with 18 words. That is a very important thing. Acquaintance with words is very important. Vocabulary के साथ जान पहचान बनाना बहुत important है. Confidence बढ़ता है. Once you know that I've seen this word, you become more comfortable. So it's very important to focus on trying to learn vocabulary rather than trying to memorize and getting disheartened. Okay, so don't get disheartened. Uh, focus on focus on trying to improve your vocabulary, and don't worry about not being able to recall all the words that you learned in a day. Okay, then come the last points. So this is the focus of the class. Okay, inferential questions, indirect questions. How do we answer them? Okay, so and how many questions would come from this? Are almost all the questions. Okay, for almost all the questions are inferential. Even the direct questions, even the questions which you can directly find the answers for in the passage, they also are not worded so in such an easy manner that you can find the answer in one go. It doesn't happen that way. So inferential questions are again must be learned with the structure, with the structure and the ability to do many things, which I'll be discussing now. Now, before we go further, let me let me tell you something. What is the best way to improve English, sir? What is the best way to improve your English? Reading, writing, listening, speaking. Okay, some of the components are not important for your exams here, but reading is the most important thing to improve any language. Okay, once you have learned the basics, you start reading. Your language will automatically become better. Okay, now when you read, what do I do? What kind of books do I read? It's your wish. Read fiction, non-fiction, anything that you think you like, but don't read one genre, only one kind of books. Okay, make sure that you read a variety of books. Even in the areas that you do not have much interest in, start reading. Okay, and in today's world, reading is the easiest thing possible. Why? Because there is a a plethora of articles that you can find on the net. Okay, and there are beautiful sites. Okay, this I have discussed in one of the classes. Okay, like uh, magazines like Eon, The Scientist, The Observer, Futurism. There are so many that I read every day. Every day. What does it do, sir? It widens my worldview. Okay, it improves my vocabulary. It makes me think. So my critical skills, the skills that I require for answering these questions, they improve. Okay, and reading will take you places. Have good control over language and read a lot so that you can develop world perspectives. Okay, and you'll see that you succeed simply because of that world perspective you have. Every successful businessman, I'm talking about the really successful ones, okay, they read, full stop. Okay. Now, indirect questions are critical reasoning questions. Now, this indirect questions are actually critical reasoning questions. So if somebody says critical reasoning or indirect questions, that they are one and the same thing. They are one and the same things. जॉब में बहुत फायदा होता है सर इंग्लिश का. It makes your class up. Absolutely, Raghav, it does. It does. Actually, see, in India, we may say so many things against the language. हजार चीज हम इसके against में करें. Even I say our primary language in India is Hindi, and the local languages are also as important. Okay, you cannot take the regional languages away from the regional party or the regional people. Okay, you cannot ask Odia to forego his Odia altogether. He'll not. He loves his language. A Bengali will not forego his language. A Tamil, me, I'll never forego my language. The fallback language always, when I'm very happy or when I'm very sad, the fallback language is always Tamil. I teach English. I love Hindi. I absolutely adore Urdu. Okay, I am trying to learn French. Okay, but mother tongue is mother tongue. What I said as I opened my eyes to this world is what comes to me naturally, and that's what I love. Okay, so the regional languages are also very important, and in such a country where such diversities of languages exist, it's very important that we develop one language. See, we might say Hindi, but I would ask the same question: why not English? Why not Tamil? Okay, then there becomes a very strong case for English because the Britishers came and ruled over the entire India, and they actually made English spread to every corner. Okay, so that becomes easy for us. I'm not saying they did good or bad. What I'm saying is the language actually spread. So half the work is already done. Half the work is already done. Nobody, nobody like uh, uh, spread Hindi the way the Britishers spread English. Had that been done, then Hindi would have become very easy for anybody to pick up. You cannot ask an Assami to speak in Hindi or write in Hindi. It's not easy for him. Not a Mizoram. Okay, so that is when this problem arises. He said there is already something, so why go against it? And the young population that India has. Okay, and if we also have that language, I can actually serve the world. I want money, man. I want a job. So why not use the language for our own benefit? Looking at it that way, yes, there is this patriotism, regionalism that cannot be. See, when if somebody says speaks ill of Hindi, I'll get angry. Naturally, that's the language of my country. Okay, most of them speak it. So I can, and I will not go against any language also because I love each and every language that is spoken in India. Okay, but can English be the language for our jobs? Of course it can. So you should learn the language well. It's very, very important because again, कुछ ना हुआ भैया. I'll start serving people in say Britain. I'll start serving people in any place of the. I'll stay in India, but I'll learn money from them. Okay, one of the skills to possess is language, English per se. Okay, and love all the other languages. You should. You could say that better, Anushka. Okay, now come to the indirect questions. So now see, whenever I say direct, indirect, or whatever kind of questions, then immediately you need to understand the structure of a passage. A passage is always based on two things: the message, the opinion, the solution the author wants to give, and the supporting information. This is the primary structure. There is nothing to a passage, let me tell you. There is nothing huge to a passage. It's not rocket science. Okay, a passage is what we speak. Okay, so simple. You have something to say and you support it. That is all. That's how a person understands your language. You say, I want a glass of water. I'm thirsty. Okay, so simple. Okay, I'm I'm taking an umbrella because it's raining. Okay, so this is the only thing that we need to do. Maybe the concept is complex. The concept is something that everybody needs to think. So the text may become longer, but the concept remains the same. There is this message and there is this supporting information. The message is called the conclusion in a passage, and the supporting information is called the premise in a passage, and the passage itself is called the argument of the author. Argument of the author. So if the terms you want to learn the terms, the passage itself is called the argument of the author. The conclusion is what the author wants to tell the audience, and the premise is how he supports his claim. Done. Okay, now in the passage, the author might directly write his conclusion, or he might sometimes hide it. Okay, and the supporting information can be one or many, and the supporting information can take any of these formats, Okay, now sometimes the message could be indirect, or the supporting information could be suggested. It may not be written directly. Then we need to understand the different terms. Okay, understand the different terms related to uh, okay, well, the different terms that we require to understand indirect questions. What I said was indirect questions are all those questions which do not find direct information or direct answers in the passage. You have to calculate. It is more like a mathematical problem. Okay, suppose I give you the principal, I give you the time, okay, and I give you the rate of interest, and I ask you to find out the simple interest. What do? You do a calculation on this. You do a calculation on this and tell me the simple interest that can be charged here. So what do we know? What do we want to understand? We want to understand the concepts. What are the critical reasoning concepts? What are the indirect question concepts and the question types? Okay, skills required. This is one of the things. The first thing is to know is to understand what is an assumption, what is an inference, what is a strengthening argument, what is a weakening argument, what is a fallacy. All these things you'll have to know before you can embark upon your journey to solve questions based on inferential questions. So you have to know the concepts, and then reading actively. Now this is very important. Sir, I know all the concepts but still cannot answer questions, is because you have, when you're reading, you need to see which information is missing, okay, so what can connect the premise and the conclusion, there could be times when the author is missing out one of the premises. He's not writing one of the premise. He has written one premise, he has given one reason, he has given the conclusion. The second reason is something that can connect the previous reason, the first reason, and the conclusion together. It's more like this: 2 plus what is equal to 8. Okay, so there must be a number which can connect the given premise. Let's take 2 to be the given premise and 8 to be the given conclusion. So this 6 is a sentence which works as a premise that is hidden. Our hidden premise is called an assumption. We'll come to that. Okay, so active reading to understand what is the given premise, what is the conclusion in the passage, and what is the best approach to CR questions. That is how you do them. So let's come to the terminology, that is knowing the concepts: assumption, inference, implicit, weakening, strengthening, etc. Okay, now let's come to, now assumption is the hidden premise and inference is the hidden conclusion. Let me go back to the same place where I showed you this. When the I said the supporting information is the premise. Remember, I said main purpose is always in the first para. I did not say that. It could be. Okay. It could be mostly. Okay. Now, supporting information I said is the premise. Premise का मतलब है supporting information or the reasons why I say this. I could have one or many premises I said. एक premise भी हो सकता है, कई सारे premise भी हो सकता है. There could be more than one reason why I say Virat Kohli is the best batsman. Maybe I have three reasons to say that Virat Kohli is the best batsman. Virat Kohli is the best batsman is my conclusion. And there could be three reasons. But what I do is sometimes I give you reason number one, reason number three, and there is reason number two, which connects the reason number one and the reason number three and the conclusion. So I think this is not necessary. I don't have to give you that. Okay, let me take an example. I say, give me a glass of water. Is it necessary for me to tell you the reason also? Or you can understand. If I say, give me a glass of water, is it necessary to also tell you the reason? Otherwise, you will not understand. Otherwise, you may misunderstand me. Is it necessary? Or it is understood from that sentence itself? What must be the purpose of asking for a glass of water? What do you think? Batana? If I say, give me a glass of water, do you think I have to actually give you the reason also? Because I'm thirsty, give me a glass of water, Varna, you cannot understand. Is that the case? Do you do that all the time? When you go home, you ask your mom, hmm, you ask your mom, uh, okay, you ask your mom, say, give me a glass of water. You tell your mom, give me a glass of water. So does she find it very difficult to understand? So she asks you the purpose. Do you want to take a bath, beta? Do you want to wash your clothes? Why are you asking me for a glass of water? Or she understand that that you must be thirsty. What must she be thinking? Will she ask you why when you say give me a glass of water? Will she ask you why? Most probably not. Most probably not, because she has understood the reason. She has understood the reason. So when we understand the premise, when we understand the reason from a given passage, it is called the assumption. When you understand the supporting information or the reason or the premise, okay, premise, reason, everything is the same. When you understand this, when it is hidden, then we call it the assumption. Okay, yeah, you call it the assumption. Now the opposite thing could work. The opposite thing could work. You went home and told your mother, I'm thirsty. So what does she do? She gives you a glass of lassi. She gives you a glass of juice. Or the first thing that comes to her mind is give a glass of water. When you say, I'm thirsty, what would anyone think? What would anyone offer? What will be the conclusion that he'll be drawing? If you say, I'm thirsty, so what is he likely to offer? A glass of lassi, a glass of juice, or a glass of water? What do you think is most likely? Give a glass of water. Now, that again is hidden in that sentence. I say, I'm thirsty. Mostly people drink water to quench their thirst. Not a can of beer. Not a can of beer. If you drink a can of beer, then you'll get more thirsty. You know that because alcohol is diuretic. It'll actually make you lose water. Okay, so that was on the funny side. Don't take it literally. What I'm saying is, whenever we want water, you should not give somebody who is thirsty a glass of water or any drink which has got sugar in it, because sugar will make you more thirsty. Okay, if you do not know that, you should know that. Okay, because sugar again can be a diuretic. Okay, anyway, so having said that, let's come to that. So the message could be hidden, sir. The conclusion could be hidden, or the premise could be hidden. Okay, if the premise is hidden, we call it assumption. If the conclusion is hidden, we call it the inference. So let's try to put this to use, and let's try to understand some questions. Okay, now there is a question here. Okay, you need to tell me which which of the following assumptions can be made on this information? Now, as soon as you see this word assumption, then what am I supposed to do with this question? You are supposed to find the hidden premise. Now, that is the first thing to understand the question. Okay, these things are not going to work until and unless you understand the question. You are trying to find the hidden premise. That is one of the reasons that is not given, one of the reasons not given in the conclusion made in the statement. What is the conclusion made in the statement? Can you tell me which part is the conclusion from this? A local bakery claims to have the best chocolate chip cookies in town. They sell out. They sell out all the cookies. They sell out of cookies every day. They sell out of cookies every day. That is, they sell all the cookies. Which one do you think is the conclusion? The second sentence or the first sentence? And which one do you think is the premise? And which one do you think from this is the hidden premise? That is, one premise is given. Okay. There is a premise number two, which is hidden, called the assumption. And there is a conclusion given. So identify the conclusion from here, identify the given premise, and find a sentence which can connect both these. Yes. Okay, so what is the conclusion here? Very good, very good. Your answers are correct. But first of all, what is the conclusion? Let's do that first. The answers are not so important as analyzing the passage, because as the questions become tougher, you have to understand. So which one is the conclusion? A local bakery claims to have the best chocolate chips and cookies in town. That is the conclusion, or the second line is the conclusion? Very good. The first sentence is the conclusion. That is very, very important, because as we start doing more questions, you will see that the first sentence is the conclusion. And what is this sentence based on? The second sentence, which is the premise number one. So there is a premise number two missing. Which one is the premise number two, which can connect this sentence and this sentence? That's all is the answer. And you gave the right answer. Most of you, absolutely, most of you gave the right answer. You said the bakery's cookies are fresh and of high quality. Only then they can say that we have the best chocolate chip cookies in town. Okay, not because of sales, not because of sales, but because of this. Why does the sale happen? Because of fresh and high quality. Now, why can't this be the reason also? Because people in the town prefer chocolate chips, but you cannot say that mine is the best until and unless this happens. If yours is the worst, then though you have, you cannot say the best chocolate chips you have in the town, because your chocolate chips are not, and they are not selling. People prefer it, they don't come to your shop. People prefer it, but they don't come to your shop because you do not have the best ones. Then this conclusion cannot be supported. So only with this third conclusion, you can support the conclusion given in the passage and the premise given in the passage. So C is the correct option. Absolutely. Very good. C is the correct option. Let's try the second question now. Let's try the second question. Question number two. Think about this. This is also very important. Think about it and you'll understand. Sir, how is the first one, the conclusion? Wait. See. Okay. Because, see, I'm going to read it this way. Because they sell out cookies every day, a local bakery claims that they have the best chips cookies in town. The word because is not written. I'm thinking about it. So the first one looks like, what is this claim based on? What is this claim based on? There must be a reason. So this is the reason. So let us read it that way. Okay, let us put because and so. Because they sell out cookies every day, a local bakery claims they have the best chip cookies in town. Now you get my point. So if you want to identify the premise and the conclusion, think of the premise as the reason. Think of the conclusion as so, therefore, hence. Think of the premise as because, since, due to, etc. Is that clear? Somebody asked me that question. Is that clear? Shubham. Now got it? Okay. Now try the second question. In a survey, again, do the same thing. Tell me the premise and the conclusion, and then choose the correct option. Assumption is again hidden reason. In a survey, 90% of the customers said they prefer online shopping to in-store shopping. They prefer online shopping to in-store shopping. What assumption can be made based on this survey result? So this is the result. This is the result. Okay, so there is no premise given. Think of the premise which could have led to this conclusion. Think of the premise which could have led to this conclusion based on a survey. Think about it. Yeah, the entire sentence is the conclusion. In a survey, okay, let's take in a survey, the 90% of the customers said, now that is the premise, they prefer online shopping to in-store shopping is the conclusion. Well, so what assumption can connect this? Which one? Sir, more than one looks good, sir. More than one uh, looks good. Think about it. Think about it. What is, let me ask you something. Online shopping is always, can you use this word? You're only talking about 90%. Can you use this word always? Sir, there is a problem, sir. तो वो पहला आंसर नहीं है. It looks so obvious. Very good. Someone said, okay, very good, Manit Kaur, very nice. Sir, as soon as you pointed out always, I have my answer. Okay, some of you have actually given me the correct answer. Very good. See, आपने always बोला, then you suddenly, most of you changed the answer. Let me call out the people who have said it correctly. Bharat, Khushbu, Anushka, you gave the right answer. No, all the other answers are wrong. Okay, let's see that. Always, no. Now the second one, all customers now. Again, can this be justified? Can this be justified? वो भी नहीं है, sir. No. So the third is certainly not the answer. The third is certainly not the answer. So which one is the correct answer? Fourth. Get my point. Okay, but the problem is all. The problem is all. You also said D. Very good. Very good. Do you get my point? Aditi, there were a lot of responses. I could not spot everybody. I'm sorry. Okay. If you had answered correct, if you had said D in the first instance itself, you were very right. See, that is the problem with inferential questions. Very smartly, uh, okay, smartly, very good, Ayush. Smartly, see, very smartly, what the option, the exam setter does is puts us in one or two words which make the option go wrong. That you have to be careful with. That is what you learn in classes. When you come to the classes, teachers teach you these concepts. Okay, I can teach you these concepts. देख लो अगर if you are struggling with inferential questions, think of joining me. Okay, so the correct answer is D. Let's try one more question here. Question number 3. Argument assumes which are the following. This is again very easy. Without which, without one of the options, the conclusion cannot be reached. Without one of the following options, the conclusion cannot be reached. Yaad rakhna. There is another indicator for the correct assumption. Sir, if in option 1 always is not present, no. You can't do that. You have to understand better. Always, only, etc. can actually be justified with enough information. So don't use that term saying, sir, extreme words. Now, extreme words could actually be justified. You have to analyze the information. You have to analyze the information and understand the information. We cannot have, that's what I told you. You cannot have, say, uh, false concepts. You have to have solid concepts here. Very good, Tarishi. Very, very good, Tarishi. Without which, listen, beta. Without one of these assumptions, the conclusion cannot be reached. The conclusion cannot be reached. What is the conclusion? Identify. What is the conclusion? Identify. What is the given premise? Identify. And then tell me the answer. No, I've gotten only one good answer till now. That is how the difficulty level goes up. Tarishi is the only person who has answered it. All the other answers are wrong. Absolutely, Raghav, you're right. एब्सोल्युटली देखो, इसमें से कोई ऑप्शन ऐसा होगा जिसके बिना, वेरी गुड साहिल, अदिति खुशवाहा, वेरी गुड साहिल, नो, अदिति खुशवाहा, एब्सोल्युटली, विदाउट विच, धिमई, वेरी गुड, गॉट इट राइट, विदाउट विच द कंक्लूजन कैन नॉट बी रीच्ड, प्रेरणा, वेरी गुड, शुभश्री, वेरी गुड, भारत, नो, अनुष्का, नो, रम्या, नो, ओजल, नो, ओजल, सॉरी, अब्दुल्ला, नो, मधुसूदन, नो. I'm asking you to find, see, that's why. Let's do something again. Come back to this. Relaxation of credit card standards helped cause the recent mortgage crisis. Credit standards should not have been relaxed, because if they had not been, the mortgage crisis would not have been avoided. The second would have been avoided. Sorry, galat pad liya. Would have been avoided. The second sentence, if they had not been, the mortgage crisis would have been avoided. Premise number one, premise number two, and this is the conclusion. Okay, premise number one, premise number two, sorry, premise number one, premise number two, and this is the conclusion. Tell me which of these should also be written as a premise for you to reach this conclusion, without which the conclusion will not work. Okay, very good, Anushka, got it now. Sahil, got it now. Anushka, very good. Mrinalika, very good. Anushka, Srivastava, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Now, get the point now. Get the point. अब बताना कौन सा आंसर होना चाहिए, 3 or 5, third or 5. People who answered 3 and 5, check which one will definitely can be used. Why not one? Use it. There were no other. There were no. Sufficient causes. Okay, look at the words. The first one is correct. First one is can also be correct. Think about it. There were no other sufficient causes of the mortgage crisis. The mortgage crisis would not have been caused by other factors. Both the sentences look the same. They are not the same. There were no other sufficient causes for the mortgage crisis. Okay, there were no other sufficient causes. Okay, and there could not have been any other cause. Sufficient causes, there could have been insufficient causes, but then partially true causes. That's what you mean. No other sufficient causes, but partially true causes could have been there. But here you are saying no other cause. So this is a better answer. Very good question. When you say, sir, why not the first one? First one looks good. Why not the first one? But the first one says there is no extreme option. That is what I tell you, Anushka. First of all, please take away that concept of extreme option from your mind, because the passage would only want an extreme option. Only then the conclusion can be reached. Only, only the mortgage, only a mortgage crisis. See, only a there should not have been any other cause factors for the mortgage crisis to have happened. Because if there were, then I cannot use the sentence. I cannot use the conclusion. If they had not been, the mortgage crisis would have been avoided. They were not avoided, and I'm giving the reason as that. That means that was the only reason that the author thinks. Huh? Now that is the opposite of what the passage says. Khushbu. Third is the opposite of what the claim is. Okay, let's try. Okay, so that is brings us to the end of the class. Okay, so when you are well, you may have doubts here. You may have doubts here. So this is the first class I'm doing with you. I have a lot of doubts. I have not taught you too many concepts. I have not even gotten into how these questions work. In this class, I wanted to introduce you to the inferential questions, how they are important to the examinations, etc. So when you come to the classes, I'll teach you all the concepts. Okay. Thank you all very much. See you in the next class. Bye bye. Thank you.